Up next from Louisiana, we'll have Ryan Reviere and MaryAnn Nickles. Ryan is a traffic incident management engineer at Louisiana DOTD, and MaryAnn Nickles is a TMC operations manager at Serco. They'll be talking about Louisiana DOTD's practices for managing TMC operator performance.
Thank you, Rashad. So we've actually had some turnaround real recently, myself and MaryAnn, as far as positions. As of about 10 days ago, I'm in a new position, so I am no longer the traffic incident management engineer for DOTD, but this will be one of my last hurrahs in this pooled fund study. MaryAnn also used to be our QA QC media liaison for our contract. She's a contractor with Serco, who owns both our MAP, which is our SSP, and our TMC contracts. So she's been recently promoted to our operations manager. So at the end of this, our slide presentation portion, I'll give you the new contact for the person going forward as our traffic incident management engineer. And with that, I'll go ahead and kick it off to MaryAnn.
Hi, everybody. My name is MaryAnn Nickles. I'm the TMC operations manager, like Ryan spoke. I have been with the TMC since 2015, started as an operator and worked my way up. So we've learned a lot since then. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. So we really focus hard on training. That is one of the biggest steps for us. We've noticed that if you give somebody the proper training, they'll be able to continue on the job and keep going forward, and it really helps. So with Serco, we implemented a 5-week training course. The first 2 weeks are a classroom-based training course. We have a TMC training binder that has basically all of the information that they would need. We call it their Bible. It has step-by-step the processes of how to create an event in ATMS, how our notifications are supposed to be worded, what major impact emails need to go out. We also review our SOP. Operators are required to take the 100, 200, 700, and 800 FEMA course. We also have them take the public safety telecommunicator role and roadway safety course in the Responder Safety Learning Network. I found that this helps them understand the importance of capturing all of the information given to them by our map drivers, so that way they can dispatch additional resources as needed via phone call. We have an LMS, and also in the first 2 weeks of the classroom training, they're building events in our ATMS test system. So they're able to see what's going on, how things are done. We usually watch a live event and have them work through it with us. After the first 2 weeks of classroom, they have a competency test that they have to take. And we just come up with a scenario. It's basically a total closure. We start from beginning to end. And if they're able to do that on their own, then they have passed the first 2 weeks and go into our 3 weeks of shadowing and mentoring. Our shadowing and mentoring 3-week session is, we like to do it 1 week on each shift, so that way they get an understanding of how all the shifts roll. While they're shadowing and mentoring, they're working with either a senior operator or supervisor in our live ATMS system. They also do a 4-hour map ride-along with our map as our SSP program. This gives them a better idea of what's going on, what they're seeing. It's like we're our eyes in the sky, they're on the ground. They can see what our drivers are experiencing and understanding. They do a 4-hour TIM training, and then at the end of that, they do a written competency test, which basically goes over all of the information that they have learned in the past 5 weeks. Next slide. Sorry, training is very, very important. So we always do continuing educational training. Every year, they are doing an annual training, refresher training based on their job role, which is either a TMC operator, TMC senior operator, or TMC supervisor. They do an annual map ride-along. They have to get TIM recertification every 2 years. And we really focus a lot with our after-action review training. So with that, weather events. We had a really big I-55 super fog incident where we met and we got feedback from DOTD and other agencies, and we sat down and broke it down with ways that we could train our operators to be able to understand the severity of events and what to do going forward. Also the winter event that we had just this past year where the entire state was completely shut down. It was really fun. We met with them so they can understand how, when that stuff happens, what to do to where we don't have to be on our always having to be over them. We're letting them think of things. Ryan, did you want to add on that?
Yeah, so those two events were probably the most notable events in recent times. The super fog, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it. Uh, it occurred along I-55, both northbound and southbound, which is between Hammond and New Orleans, alongside Lake Pontchartrain. And we had at the time swamp fires, which was adding visibility issues, which we were lighting up our DMS boards. And at the time, the swamp fire coupled with fog created what they termed super fog, and it basically brought visibility down to almost nothing. And so that incident ended up with about 160 vehicles and 7 fatalities. Excuse me. um, really can't talk too much about it because it's currently under litigation. And then as far as the other storm, what they nicknamed Weather Winter Storm Enzo, I believe, it really, like MaryAnn said, it taxed our entire system because we have 6 different TMCs as well as 6 different map regions. Again, map is our SSP. And it really stressed the entire system as a whole on both ends because usually we could surge to one area, but this had covered, again, this is Louisiana, so we're not used to snow. Maybe in the northern parts, but we had record-breaking snows along throughout the southern portion of the state. It was the most snow I've ever seen in my life. So it was a learning experience. We got along, had an after-action review, and went over what went well, what would be possibly could do better going forward. Or and I think really the biggest issues, especially with the winter weather event or hurricanes or things of that nature, is how do we get those that information to the governor or to any of our stakeholders? Because there's such a turnaround and taking that information and making updates to 511 because things happen so quickly. And those are where we're looking to get better in our processes.
Awesome. Yeah, so we just basically focus really on anything after that, with any type of major incidents or special events. For example, special events whenever the presidential comes to town or the Super Bowl, we really work hard on how can we improve the next time with that, as far as, do we need to have more staff on hand to make sure notifications are going out correctly? What do we need to do? How we should surge on that. Next slide. So our performance metrics are listed there. What we do is we take a random event, we pull like the previous, sorry, like Samira said previously, we pull about 10 events a week and just randomly go through them and check them. We pull them from our ATMS report and we look through there and just see, if the operator has followed the performance metrics, which is time to dispatch map is less than 2 minutes. We typically dispatch map immediately. That's always going to be less than 2 minutes, but we're looking at what time, how long after they built the event in the ATMS, did we click on the ATMS that we dispatched our map units to that. Our main focus on that is our response plan. It is an automated response plan, which is great. It helps us get the information out quickly. Whereas one thing that we learned is that when you do something automated, it takes out people's ability to think and, rework things on the fly, which happens sometimes. Not every incident is the same. So you might have to adjust certain messages on certain signs. And a lot of people are just like, oh, that's what the response plan said. Well, it's like you have to think about things. So while automating things are great, it does take away from the chance to think and make sure that everything falls on the fly. Next slide. So again, like I said, this is our ATMS. We use our reports there to make sure that they're following the order of operations when building events. So we have to make sure that they are hitting create if it's a reported event, confirmed if it's an actual confirmed event. When they dispatch our map units, when they're on scene, all of those buttons at the bottom, every time they click on it, it adds it to the report, and we use that to verify to see what we need to work with on that. Now, once we've identified that it may be a certain process that a certain operator may have an issue with, we go back into our LMS and we add more training to that. So that way they're able to, see, give them additional steps and resources. The downside of giving a training binder, one thing that we did notice is that whenever the information is updated, it's hard to go back to everybody and say, okay, let's print out a new training binder. So we keep all of our updated information into our LMS system. Everything is digital. They have ways to access it at all times. Next slide. And that's it for me. Ryan?
Okay, just a few additional comments. I know you've mentioned LMS a couple times. I think it's our learning management system. So just
Yes.
FYI, if you were getting lost with the acronym, I know this tends to be a world of acronyms in ITS or in this industry. Also, I think one of the things that I actually would like comments on is how other states are, what other performance metrics are other states using? Because when I first, well, I'm no longer in the role, but when I took over the contract and the role, that was one of the first things that I reviewed was the performance metrics. And some of them, I agree in concept, we have to have performance metrics, but sometimes it's hard to either quantify or get information that we feel is actually usable, that makes sense, even though we can measure it. The other thing is, I'm curious as to how others are um, not gathering it, but like we use Power BI. That's what we use as our dashboard to display our metrics. So I'm curious how other states are doing that. Um, and then lastly, the contact information you see is Ty Hampton. She is taking over the role as the traffic incident management engineer for Louisiana DOTD.
Thank you very much. All of those presentations were excellent. Right now, we're gonna open it up to Q&A. If any questions weren't posed during these presentations, some were answered. Hopefully, all of them were answered, I believe. If you have any other questions, please feel free to put it in the Q&A pod, and we'll look to get some answers for you. Any questions like any tools or methods that weren't mentioned in any of these, or management's perception? It's not in the Q&A pod, but I think we have a question from Brian. And Brian, is this to anyone in particular, or is it to all the presenters? Okay, to anyone. If anyone would like to answer this question, do you incorporate customer service or stakeholder feedback in TMC performance measurement? I believe Rebecca is typing an answer. Not sure if it's to Brian's question or Johan's question. Johan is a separate question in the Q&A box. Brian, I'm just trying to get yours responded to.
So Rashad, I'll give my opinion on actually both of those questions. As far as I'll start with the recruiting. I don't know if recruiting is as big of the problem, and MaryAnn, you can jump in if you want, but it's more so the retention. We've been having issues retaining employees. In fact, that's one of the things that we're trying to work on to prevent them from jumping on to other, I guess, ventures. And we've got a few ideas. I don't know, MaryAnn, if you want to go into that or not, but staff retention has been one of the biggest issues, because that when you don't retain staff, then you don't develop staff, and then those error rates that we're talking about tend to compound. And before I get to the next one, MaryAnn, if you want to chime in.
Yes. So, what we've noticed is that it's not necessarily the recruiting, it's just the everybody coming in. Not everyone fully understands what the TMC is or what they do. So when we get people coming in, they're just thinking like, oh, it's just a general job. And then when they realize everything that they have to do, they're just kind of like, this is not um for me or whatever. I'm curious to know if there was ever a plan to do like a national certification for the TMCs. That way, everyone understands, like it's a way to get everybody out there understanding, like, oh, okay, this is a national thing. So if you're certified in a TMC, you can go anywhere with it. That would be really great. Preferred educational background. We don't limit it to like degrees or whatever, as long as you have a high school diploma or GED. I had no knowledge in TMC at all when I started. I didn't even know my directions on the interstate. And then I just kind of like, I mean, I've had different jobs throughout my life, but I'm obsessed with TMC stuff now. It's like all I talk about, and I try to recruit people. Um, but it's just basically getting the knowledge out of what your TMC does. And we are working on that with all of our other stakeholders and our DOTD customer service, hopefully to get them to kind of do like a little uh, media blurb on what the TMC is and what we do and how people can apply and go from there.
So, Rashad, the other question from Brian concerning the incorporating customer service or stakeholder feedback in TMC performance measurement. Uh, I don't know if it's actually directly one of our performance metrics, but I know fairly recently, and again, this goes back to the issue with the turnover issue that we've had recently. Um, I went to what I deemed as our internal customers, our PIO, our maintenance contract, as well as just the districts, et cetera, and really solicited feedback. And from that, try to use in our monthly TMC meetings that we hold. Um, that was the basis for discussion. Say, hey, what are we doing with this? I'm hearing this. I'm hearing that. How can we go forward? What type of training is needed to get better?
Piggyback on what MaryAnn was saying, I was a mechanic before I came into TMC operations. I had no idea what I didn't know who put up the signs. Like I knew nothing about this center. So in our recruiting, we're no longer contracted. We're actually all my operators now state, but um, when they were contracted, and also on our applications now for state positions, we also don't require anything. Like she said, high school diploma, a valid driver's license though, because it is emergency operations, and they need to be able to get to these centers when they're needed. But no prior experience is needed for us as well. Just to piggyback off of that. Thank you, Ryan and MaryAnn. Thank you for Rebecca for responding in the pod as well. We do have a few questions that she has responded to as well. Performance measures used to adjust payout or bonuses was posed by an anonymous attendee. Rebecca then responded for WisDOT, that's completely dependent on AECOM, and MaryAnn responded for Louisiana, that is determined by Serco. They use the performance metrics to determine raises. We have another open question by an anonymous attendee in the Q&A pod. Have the performance efforts resulted in incentivizing operators? Actually, it looks like it got answered. Thank you, Rebecca, for responding as well. Have the performance efforts resulted in incentivizing operators to take on ownership of system performance? In other words, not only do performing actions, but looking at it as managing the system to improve safety and mobility for the public and freight. And Rebecca responded, not yet, as our current focus is on providing quality and current information to the public. Our operators are constantly working with our ATMS provider to ensure quality operations of our ATMS. John has posed several questions in the chat, not the Q&A pod. Did I miss his first one? Well, I see. Have any of the states run into issues with staff having the performance monitoring and reporting with agency staff, or are the practices only applicable to the contractors providing these services? If anyone wants to jump in and handle that one, that'd be great. If not, I can't speak on contractors for Maryland because, again, we're all state now. I don't have a contractor. But as far as performance monitoring, I did create a position that handles that. He's my training and certification manager. I have two operations managers. One oversees the statewide operations center. One oversees all of my TOCs, which are the traffic operations centers that are located in our state police barracks across the state. But all of that is being put on the shoulders of my new training and certification manager. We have one open in the pod. Do any other speakers, states have a thought on the managing the system question? I'm not sure which question that is on the managing the system question. Again, if no one else wants to jump in there, I can speak for Maryland. I, myself, and my new training and certification manager speak directly with, we have a proprietary system. Our ATMS was created and is managed in-house and in conjunction with University of Maryland. Their CAT lab is very helpful with that and developing that. So we have meetings every Tuesday, and if anything's brought to myself or my training and certification manager or any one of my managers, they bring it to me or him, and we speak directly with our systems engineers and the person that handles our ATMS personally. Again, in the chat, please try to keep your questions in the Q&A pod. It is a little bit more helpful to keep track of. We have, which is the preferred educational background? I think we touched on that one. We have, in Florida, we have developed an automated software that tracks events that are assigned to operators and the time frame it takes for the operator to move it along to the next phase in the event recording. The software also reminds the operator that an event is waiting to move along to the next phase when it is lingering. TMC management runs reports daily to review how many events were handled by each operator and how each operator was graded. This software was aimed at grading, but also reminding the operators during the course of an event. Is anyone else using this type of automated software? I'd like for anyone to jump in there. That'd be great. I'm not sure that many states are using very automated software there. I think North Carolina might have touched on some a little bit. In Maryland, I'm trying to get our proprietary system to a more automated system. We have made leaps and bounds in that everything is contained in one unit. I've seen a lot of other TMCs have several sections of their ATMS and they have to work in conjunction. But I have not seen anybody else doing that like as Florida proposed. Rebecca stated that Wisconsin does not use an automated software that tracks events, which goes along with what my observation has been. I haven't seen a whole lot of other states doing that.
Hey, Rashad, I have a question. I was just curious if any of the other states are using AI in their detection for events. I know that's something we've had companies contact us concerning, but I'm just curious if any of the other states are actually doing it and how they're finding it working.
Great question, Ryan.
Hi, Ryan. This is Rebecca from Wisconsin. We're just starting now to look into AI for automatic incident detection. There was a kickoff meeting this past Monday, but unfortunately I had to attend the pre-meeting to this. But I think we are going to be implementing it on, or just for experimental at the time, I think like 20 or 25 different sites. So I can provide some details in the future, but I don't have any information at this time otherwise.
Sure, if you can, definitely get that to MaryAnn or Ty.
Sure, once I know something or once we kind of have it more deployed and checking in the field, yep, I can provide that information.
Joseph did respond. They're using AID software, automated incident detection software in Florida, and it's being used in several other states. Here in Maryland, we don't have it implemented yet. We are still building it out in some of our ITS devices along a certain section of 695, which encompasses Baltimore, the Baltimore region. There's a section of that, which includes in 2022, there was an incident that was probably almost all the TMSs understand happened with 6 workers in a work zone. But that is our section that includes the new devices that will implement AI and automated incident detection software. They're in that zone that should be going live next year. We'll see if that happens because the time frame keeps getting pushed back. But yeah, we are planning on that. An anonymous attendee, is there any career path for operators for those who may want to stay? I can speak on that. At Maryland, we have 7 different levels. So our operators are called highway operations technicians by title. You start off as a hot 1, and after a certain amount of time, you can then test up to highway operator 2. We also have highway operations technician 3, which is a team leader. Then the 4th level is a supervisor. And like I said, I as a contractor, I started in 2014 as a highway operations technician 1. I have moved up to supervisor by 2018, manager by 2020, and division chief by 2022. So in Maryland, there's tons of mobility here.
In Wisconsin, we have been, since I've been here, we have been trying to provide different opportunities for our control room operators to promote. I'm going to call it like the lowest levels is going to be the control room operator. Then we've got a lead operator that is also a trainer. Then above the trainer is going to be a QA QC specialist and or a flex lane specialist. And then on top of that, you've got the ship supervisor. And then we just created a new position for assistant manager, which one of the ship supervisors took. So now we've got a ship supervisor position open. So we are trying to make sure that our control room operators have the opportunity to advance when we do have openings.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Any other questions want to be posed in the Q&A pod? Take a couple more minutes for that. Otherwise, there are various places that you can reach out to people. I believe any of these presenters, along with myself, you have our email addresses and you can reach out if you have any questions that follow up once we conclude this session. It's looking like we might be all questioned out. If there are no more questions, I believe we can move on. Thank you very much. Here we have our completed work products from the pool fund study. Things such as managing TMS assets, assessing and reporting on TMS capabilities and performance, predictive analytics. These are all recently completed projects that you can find on the Pool Fund Study website. That address is found below. Thank you, Kyla, for putting that in the chat. All of those reports will be on the completed projects page, as she just put it in the chat there. And it is at the bottom of your screen as well. Our upcoming webinars in this series, again, be on the lookout for these announcements at the NOCO on the NOCO website, and for our upcoming NOCO webinars. If you are interested in being a speaker or moderator or host in an upcoming webinar, please contact John Hochberger. Again, he is our liaison at FHWA for the Pool Fund Study. These are upcoming topics again that we'll be touching on moving forward. You can reach out to John Hochberger or Kathy Thompson. They've both been very beneficial in handling these. We can move forward, please. Again, that is the NOCO website. You can find ideas, you can submit ideas, research topics, our TMS portal, as well as plenty of other information that you'll find on the NOCO website under that page. And Kayla, I think we can go to the closing poll.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Rashad. I'm going to put a poll question in here, just asking for any thoughts on future webinars. Okay, share this one. Okay. So just if there's any information, resources, or research conducted that you'd like to see that are not currently available in that TMS portal, you can share some information there. And then if there's any additional TMS emerging topics that you would like to see, just always great to get information collected from everyone who attends these webinars. So we'll just leave that open for a minute or so, and then we'll just wrap up. But I do want to say, thanks so much to Rashad for moderating, and for our panelists, Les Jacobson, Samir Nazarvik, Ryan Reviere, MaryAnn Nickles, Rebecca Klein, and Scott Nauman. Those were really informative presentations, so just really appreciate everyone's attendance and participation today. And then, as I mentioned in the beginning, a recorded version of the webinar will be available on the NOCO website probably in the next week or so. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, just thanks so much for participating today, and stay tuned for future webinars. So I'll leave this poll open. I think we're wrapping up here. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. All the presentations were great. Plenty of questions.
Great. So looks like we still have some answers trickling in here, so I'll just leave it up. But yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for panelists. Thanks for